The name of my book, which is called As Is, it's my most vulnerable work, my most honest work, and something I'm the proudest of, even though I'm scared to share it with the audience because it's, like you said, very vulnerable.
Welcome to Fulfillment Project. We've got Rachel Krentzman here today. Such a unique story. As I was reading through her book, I thought, you guys have to meet Rachel. You have to hear her story. Number one, because it's just amazing what some people go through, the strength they find in their lives and how they find that strength. And I think there are a lot of crossovers where you can apply some of the lessons that Rachel has earned through the hard way. You can connect some of those dots in your life for when moments get hard for you. So before I go any further, Rachel, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. A really good day and excited to be here.
Yeah, it's 9 a.m. here Eastern time. Where are you at today? What's going on?
I'm in Israel. I'm in a town called Ra'anana, which is about 20 minutes northeast of Tel Aviv in the center, and it's 4:15.
Across the world in the Holy Land. It's December. We're coming up on Christmas time. Is there what's it like around Christmas time there? Are there extra amounts of people coming to visit the area, or is it always just really busy over there?
Actually, you don't feel Christmas as much here, I have to say, which makes me sad because I really love the Christmas season and I love the decorations and the trees. And I used to live in California and in Canada before that. So I do really miss that. You'll only find the Christmassy feelings more in Nazareth and maybe in Jaffa, where there's more Christian, but you don't feel it as much here.
Wow. How far away is Nazareth from where you are?
About an hour and a half.
Got it. Would you ever take the trip up there, or it's like
Oh, I have. I've done it.
too hectic?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it makes sense. Christmas is a Christian holiday. Where you're at, it's probably mostly Jewish people. Therefore, why would you celebrate someone else's holiday? Is that kind of the vibe?
It's not as big, it's not as mainstream. Here, the big holiday is Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And that's coming up, and there are a lot of donuts and lights around. So that's sort of what we're feeling here. But if you go to specific areas that have some monasteries and some churches, probably the old city in Jerusalem, Nazareth, Jaffa, then you'll find Christmas trees and lights, and it's really nice. But it's not as mainstream as in the U.S.
Yeah, U.S. does a really good job at Hallmark holidays, and everyone kind of gets wrapped up in every holiday, no matter what you celebrate. It's like, let's do it.
Yes.
Hallmark is the master bridge maker.
Mm.
My gosh. Rachel, we have a lot to jump into today, and I think the only way to jump in is to jump in. So let's go. You grew up in Montreal, Canada, a beautiful place, as the daughter of an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. And in your book, you describe a sheltered childhood with strict observances, the knit yarmulke, which I'm hoping you can break out for the audience, because I didn't know there was a difference in yarmulkes. You had a kosher kitchen, Shabbat routines. What's one memory that kind of captures the warmth and the pressure of that world growing up in Montreal?
So one memory that I have is before Passover. In the Passover holiday, we're not allowed to eat bread or anything made of bread. And therefore, what we do is we burn it. We actually burn all of the last bread in the house that we find the night before. Not all the bread, but just the little bits. It's more symbolic. But we sit around the fire. My father used to have a trash can made of, aluminum. And it would be outside in Montreal where it's cold in March, April, when Passover is. It's really cold. And we used to sit around kind of this fire in our garage, in our driveway, where there's snow around, and we would burn our chametz. And that was a nice memory that I have.
Was every house on the block doing something similar?
Not every house, because only homes that really observe all the rules do this fire burning ritual on the morning of Passover. Not everyone does it, but we did. And it was nice. It's almost like sitting by a fireplace as a family.
Yes. And if you had a fireplace inside, could you have done it inside, or is there some component of it that had to be outside?
I don't know. I think it can be anywhere.
I love those childhood memories where it's like, well, this was very much a ritual, but it's like every year it's a ritual of you collect the bread, dad starts the fire, you throw in the bread, and then you sit around. It's warm, it's inviting. I love that. You opened my eyes to a knit yarmulke versus other types of yarmulkes versus no yarmulke. Will you explain for the audience? Because this may be a new concept for them, like it was for me when you were walking me through it. And I think this might help them get an idea of the orthodoxy of your family. What's the difference in yarmulkes, and like, what did you guys observe?
There are many differences actually that a lot of people don't know about. It has to do with how you dress, the types of clothes you wear, and specifically for men, the type of head covering that they wear. So some people don't wear any yarmulkes. They walk around, with no yarmulke on their head, and they could be somewhat traditional, but they would not be considered Orthodox. The Orthodox people generally wear, the men wear a yarmulke on their head. If it's a knit one, so something that was crocheted, you tend to be it defines you as more of a modern Orthodox sect, one that's primarily Zionistic and supports the state of Israel and might be a little more modern in terms of engaged, went to university, maybe have a profession like medical school, law school, accounting, that type. And then there's the black yarmulke or black velvet, there's suede, there's all different kinds of materials. And the deeper you get into the world of Judaism and Orthodox Judaism, the more you can really see the nuances between the different styles of yarmulkes. So the more black it is, the more Orthodox you are. And if you go further into Orthodoxy, they won't wear a yarmulke, they'll actually wear a hat. So the
Mm.
Hamburg hat. And then beyond that, there's something called a strimel, which is the fur round hats that a lot of Hasidic Jews wear.
And Hasidic Jews are the Jews with the dangles on the sideburns.
With the ringlets, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I didn't mean to not be respectful. I just
And
didn't know
they
what to call them.
ultra Orthodox. So
Yeah. I
as you
can't wait to go out and the audience. It's like when you buy a car, you've never seen that car before in your life on the road, but then you buy one, you start to see them everywhere. And ever since I met with Rachel the first time, it's like I see yarmulkes and notice yarmulkes in such a different way. And I'm trying to remember, like, oh, what did Rachel tell me about that one? To just try and gauge a little insight into that person's life. It's very interesting. It's very cool. Not every nationality or culture has such a calling card, like, hey, this is who I am. I put it out there for everyone to see. So at least you have an idea of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I guess it labels people's religious affiliation or how Orthodox they are, or what type of people or politics they even subscribe to. The way I see it
Yeah.
is sort of the way people dress, just the way people dress. We usually can tell a little bit, what type of person you are by the way you dress. If you dress more goth, if you dress more hippie, if you dress more preppy, you can kind of tell people's political beliefs or religious beliefs a little bit through their way they dress. So I see it the same way in Judaism.
That's so interesting. You mentioned that your dad was a difficult personality, kind of elusive, kind of explosive. How did that show up in everyday family life?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, he was pretty quiet, pretty antisocial. He was home a lot, didn't talk a lot, wasn't very emotional. I'd say he wasn't very physically affectionate. He was more of the strict, elusive type of father. But
Mm.
every now and then, he would lose his temper. So he was kind of tricky in that respect, and you never knew when it would be. It was almost like walking on landmines. That's sort of how it felt around our house. He was never physically violent, and he was a loving father in terms of his relationship with us. And we were five of us in our family.
And
But
you were the oldest, right?
I was the oldest, yes. I still
Yeah.
am. Yeah.
Well, great point. Great point.
So he was an interesting character in the sense that he was he was always there, but and a strong personality, but he didn't say a lot. He didn't have a lot to say. But occasionally, and it happened not infrequently, but when he would get angry, he would raise his voice. And when he raised his voice, it was scary. He was loud. He would get angry. So when he spoke, we were kind of fearful of him in a way. So it wasn't the type of dad we'd just run and sit on his lap. He was more of a serious figure, more of someone we feared a bit, and we respected also at the same time.
Totally. And as the oldest, you were kind of mediating or handling things for your other siblings. Everyone, hey, if you haven't already gone over to my Substack and signed up for a free or premium membership, why don't you go do that right now? There's so much stuff. Every Monday morning, you get the newest, latest episode, either a long form or a monologue on a big topic by me. Every Wednesday, you get the self-reflection guide, all my notes, all my memos, and so much more. And by signing up, you will get my free book emailed to you in PDF form right now. Thank you so much. When did you ever have like an epiphany internally that that role in the family was shaping the person you were becoming?
I don't think I realized that until much later in life, to be honest, as many of us do. When you're a kid, you just realize that this is your life and this is all you know. So you don't really know anything else. Later in life, I went into being a physical therapist, a yoga therapist, and then a psychotherapist. And as I studied psychotherapy, I realized that my place in the family definitely influenced my personality, my behaviors, lots of things in my life.
It's incredible because I'm the youngest of five. My wife is the second oldest of seven. And the more we've been married, the more I've realized how much place in the family matters. And not all the time, but I do notice that a lot of older siblings tend to marry people that are younger siblings. It's like the old ones are used to leading, like my wife, and the young ones are used to following, like me. And it just like seems to work, like opposites attract in a way. And that's so fascinating in my little psychoanalysis of myself over the last many years. I'm like, oh my gosh, place in the family matters. It's really
It
incredible how
really, really
outside of your
does matter.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does matter. We have the same experiences, same parents, but where you are in the family and what happened at the time when you were born and as you're growing up absolutely impacts your experience of your childhood.
In your professional work, is it because as a layman, I would say that's just because the first child, the parents have never been parents before. And typically they're the poorest they're going to be in their lives. So like the circumstances and the experience of your parents are different for the first one. Is it all a parental thing or is there more to it to place in the family?
I don't think it's only about the parents. I think it's about the role of the child. So if you're the oldest, it's assuming you have siblings, right? We're talking about not only child. There's a
Yeah,
whole other thing of being an only child and just
big
being the
time.
only one to get but when you're the oldest like I was and you have siblings that come after you, you end up taking care of your siblings. Whether you like it or not, you start to take on the role of being in charge. My parents did give me a lot of responsibility in terms of taking care of the little ones. And I remember babysitting a lot, taking care of them, and so becoming more motherly towards them.
Yeah.
And it gives you a different sense of responsibility and place in the family. So I don't think it's only the parents, it's the fact that if you have younger siblings, you do end up taking care of them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard, and this makes a lot of sense to me. This is more anecdotal, but like when you have multiple children in the family, the older ones grow by learning to lead, and the younger ones grow because they have someone to follow. So the oldest child kind of has to learn everything step by step, but the younger child gets to skip a lot of those learning phases because they've got an older sibling leading them along that way or modeling, even if they don't know it, the way to do things. And that's an important relationship for the older. And like, it's good for people to be leaders and good for people to have someone to look up to. And I always thought that was very interesting. And I see it in my life with my older siblings, and they all joke like, I learned from all their mistakes. And the truth is, of course I did, and I grew very fast because I had 4 older siblings to look up to. Was that kind of the same in your family or a little different?
I'm not sure it was the same. I don't think it's so clear because I think it depends on how the younger ones view the older ones. Some of them want to be like the older ones. Some of them are jealous because you got, the attention or you did something first, and some of them rebel. So there's so many ways that it could play out. So I don't think it's quite always that clean that the older ones are leaders and the younger ones are the followers. There's also a lot of competition and different things that happen. So I'm not sure. I feel like each of us just had our own experience, but being all I can know is my experience, right? And I definitely needed to break in my parents. The older ones always break in the parents because they
That
think,
hard task.
yeah, and they get a little more lenient as time goes on. And I guess sometimes they're harder on the older ones, and we have to do better in a way. So I feel my experience was that doing something half-assed or getting grades that were a bit lower was not acceptable. So we got
Mm,
a lot of pressure, or I had a lot of pressure put on me to excel, to do well. And if I didn't, I would hear about it. And I'm not sure it was the same experience for my siblings.
yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You had to cut the trail. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're in a place where you can close your eyes, I want you to close your eyes because we're about to pivot to one of the craziest, I'd say it's the second craziest part of Rachel's story. So close your eyes if you're not driving and picture this. You're a child. The doorbell rings. There's the FBI at the front door. Your dad is arrested. Okay, just it's unfathomable. It truly shook me. It's one of those moments in a book where it's like so visceral and visual, and I can't believe you lived through that. Take us back there, Rachel. What was that like? What happened?
Well, the story was that we were preparing to go to a family event, a bar mitzvah of a cousin in Connecticut. And we were getting ready, and there was a big frenzy, and we were packing, and just a lot of stress around getting everyone into the car and on the road on time, as we were driving from Montreal to Connecticut. And it actually wasn't the doorbell; it was a phone that rang. So we didn't
Mm.
we didn't have anyone come to the door, but it was a phone call, and this phone call. It's hard to remember the reality of it because I can only remember my experience of it. But the phone rang, and my mother went to answer it, and then she came out and told us that she got a phone call that my father was arrested and was in jail, and she doesn't know why, and that we're gonna go anyway to the bar mitzvah. That was sort of the message we got. It was very shocking, and so we had no idea what was happening. We didn't understand why he was put in jail. Usually if you're arrested, I thought maybe it was a parking ticket or something, an unpaid bill, which you don't get arrested for. So it obviously was something more dramatic. We couldn't imagine what it was because he was a rabbi, he's an upstanding citizen, had a job. We were sort of thrown off, and we weren't sure we should leave, that we should go anywhere because he's sitting in jail. I'm thinking maybe we should visit him. Maybe we should, I don't know.
Did you know it was for a long time, a short? Were you thinking like, hey, we got to wait for dad to come home before we go to this bar mitzvah?
No, we didn't. They said he's not getting out.
Got it.
He
So
was
you
arrested.
knew he wasn't coming home.
trial. So we knew it was something serious. And then soon afterwards, and I'm not sure when, I don't remember, it was so long ago, but soon afterwards, we were told that he was arrested for selling drugs to a police officer, an undercover police officer. And that's when it got really shocking. So in the beginning, there was just a lot of unknowns and it was more shock and disbelief. But we were
Yeah.
hoping for the best scenario, like maybe it was a misunderstanding, maybe,
Hmm.
he was tried for something and it wasn't him. But the next day, it was clear that they had arrested him and he was going on trial for drug trafficking, which was completely outside of anything we could have ever imagined. And, when you're in shock, you're in shock. So it doesn't, it's so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And slowly, so we went, and I felt guilty. I remember feeling guilty that we went anyway without him. That maybe he was scared, maybe he was lonely, maybe he was having anxiety about being in prison, and that something felt wrong about it with that decision. It felt like we should be there or we should support him in some way. And yet, my
Yeah. What do you
mom,
think was going on with your mom? Do you think she just wanted life as usual? That was kind of her way to
yes.
process it all?
So, a big theme in the book that I talk about in my memoir is really that our society or the way that we were brought up was very much based on appearances. And so it was very hard to be truthful. It was very hard to be real because everything had to look good and
Mm,
perfect on the outside because the whole community was in a way watching you all the time to make sure that you were doing the right thing, being the right person, living your life a certain way. And any kind of black spot on your, family life or your personal life would end up being this literally this black I can't explain it. I'm trying to find a way to explain it. Kind of like a red mark on your bad mark on your report card. And then once you get this bad mark, you will not find a husband to marry. This was sort of the pretense. So everything was about appearances. You had to do well, look good, follow the rules, get good grades. And if something went wrong in the family, it would be on your record for a long time.
yeah.
And so
With high stakes, because as a little girl or a girl coming of age, you're thinking, well, this can affect my husband. If I don't get a husband, I can't have a life. I can't have kids. So this is like major ramifications.
And reputation was everything. I remember, especially as a young teenage girl, reputation is very important for everyone. But in our society, it was extremely important that you didn't kind of damage your reputation. So it was better to stay silent and pretend that everything was okay. And so I do see what was happening and why my mother made that choice. She didn't want our
Yeah.
family to know about it. We were hoping it would go away. We were hoping it was a misunderstanding, it would go away and nobody would know. Yeah, but something just felt extremely wrong with abandoning, in a way, him and going
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
pretending rather than saying something really big is happening, we can't come.
yeah. And there's something, just to take a little sidestep from the conversation for the audience, there's something so beautiful about vulnerability in life. And I have found for myself, the more I have become vulnerable and said the things that I was scared to say, the more people are ready to stand in and say, me too. I'm struggling with that, or I've been through that. And I find the more vulnerable I am, the quicker I get through that situation, or the quicker I'm able to embrace it as an idiosyncrasy or a peculiarity of me that is okay. It's the way it is. And when I hold things back, which I tend not to do anymore because I found so much fruit in vulnerability, but when I hold things back, it's like there is a thorn in my mind that is always there and it's very distracting. Therefore, I can't be myself and I can't open up. And another thought I'm having is so often people go to events and instead of entering into the people that are there, and the main thesis of my observation here is we're thinking about ourselves instead of other people. We're in the room but we're not there, so you miss the whole thing. And oftentimes you think everyone's thinking about you and nobody's thinking about you. So at the same time, people are hyper judgmental. So if you are wearing the wrong fragrance, if you're wearing the wrong clothes, people can be hyper judgmental about that. I wanted to ask you, with your expertise, Rachel, how do you marry those two things with being present, but also appearing a certain way? Because you talking about appearances with the family, I'm trying to connect it to modern day for the listeners. Like, how can we learn from your? I hope we don't find ourselves in your situation. But for us, when we are worried about appearances, have you thought about this?
Very, very much. I think I've spent my whole life trying to be different than I was back then, or live a different life than we
Yeah.
lived back then, because I think it's really harmful. And I agree totally with what you said earlier, that when you're vulnerable and you're real, people relate to you and they show up. And if I had called my family or showed up to my friends and said, I'm in shock, I'm having a really hard time right now, something major is happening in my family, they would have showed up for me in a very different way. Instead,
Hmm.
tried to stuff it under the rug, like people do. And that causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of, like you said, a thorn in the brain. Literally, you can't think about anything else. So you're not present. You're
Yeah.
worrying somewhere else. And if I had kind of shown up and talked honestly with people, we could have had a heart to heart conversation. We could have been real, and I could have been present. So I don't think those two things go together at all. I don't think you can reconcile that. I think to be present and to be real, you have to be honest, and you have to tell people what's happening for you. So if you walk into a party and you have this huge stress on your mind, or you're concerned about something, I think you need to say it, and you need to be real and say, I'm really happy to be here. This is a great event. I'm just sharing with you that I just heard this news, or this just happened, and it's going to take me a little time to get into the vibe, or just to really open up. And the minute you say it, it diffuses the whole thing. And then you can show up and you can be there. But if you hide it, it's like a monster that just grows bigger and bigger inside.
Couldn't agree more. Incredible. So you visited your dad. You get home and you ended up visiting him on a regular basis in jail, right?
It wasn't maximum security. It
Yeah.
was probably medium or so. But I had never even been to a jail before. I'd never visited anyone in a prison. So the whole thing was strange. But I do know that there was a gate. It was a big building. There was barbed wire all around. So probably more of a prison situation. And I was about 23 at the time. I was in college, maybe a little bit younger. I was newly married, and this was completely outside of my comfort zone. So I was scared. I remember being really
Yeah.
scared and afraid. And I was sitting in the waiting room with all the other people waiting to visit their family members, and a lot of gang members, a lot of tattoos. And I came from a very wholesome
An
upper middle
Orthodox Jewish family.
life where nobody got tattoos and had earrings. And, so it was very different
Went to
and very
prison.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said earlier that your dad's arrest was the second most impactful part of the story for me, because to me, this is the most impactful part of the story, and maybe the thing that your whole life hinges on. And talk about vulnerability, your book. Will you just share what you asked of your dad and his
Yeah.
response and the dominoes thereafter?
Yeah. It's funny, but I feel like I'm going to get a bit emotional, because you're right. It wasn't so much the arrest which was shocking and traumatic, but what was more traumatic was his response to me when I showed up, kind of the oldest, the only one who was willing to go to jail and visit him and bring him what he requested of me to bring him: food and cigarettes and even money, to smuggle money in, and different things. But I asked for some more, for the truth. And I didn't really need to know the details. I understand that he couldn't tell me everything because he was awaiting trial. But I wanted him to be more honest with me as a person. I wanted him to show up and just say something that was meaningful. In other words, even an apology not for what he did, but even for putting us through
Yeah.
this suffering, being on the front page of the newspaper and all the confusion, and or at least maybe to recognize it, to say something of a meaning, of something with heart, to bring his heart to the meeting. And because all of our times together were really just talking about nothing, um, very little personal connection, and more just talking about, not the weather, but maybe what was happening in prison or what was going on at home. But there wasn't this feeling of connection. There wasn't this feeling of authenticity or truth. And he didn't seem to care. He didn't seem to care at all about what happened. He didn't have anything to say about it. And we were sort of left suffering and picking up the pieces of this big mess that he made. And it was really hard for me. And I asked him to explain or to give me a little more, or to open up a little more and be more honest about our relationship. And when I did that, he was unable to do so. And he looked at me and said, "I never want to see you again." That was his response. And that is true. That was a much bigger trauma and shaped my life, because I walked out of there feeling as if I asked for the truth, or I asked for more, and I was rejected. I was kind of thrown out for being
It's
real.
unthinkable. It's
Yeah.
unthinkable.
And I walked out of there, and I knew at that moment that things would never be the same. It was as if something had died in me, something, in our relationship, in my family, that would never be reversible.
And did you ever go back?
I never went back to prison. No. He never made contact with me. We didn't talk for 10 years. And the only reason we did, it was that at some point in my path, in my growth, I realized that if I didn't forgive him or come to terms with our relationship, that I would suffer. And so
Mm.
in the course of my therapy, and then there's been a lot of therapy that I went to, something in me shifted where I tried to just let go and have more compassion, if not for him, but for myself as well,
Yeah.
so that we could just move on and I wouldn't be carrying this burden and this shame. And so I reached out to him. And so we maintained a very neutral, distant relationship after that. But that was 10 years later. And it was initiated by myself. He didn't ever contact me.
Did it have your intended consequence? Did you achieve some peace through that interaction, even though you had to initiate?
I think it did. And I think it does. Still think that forgiveness is really important. Even if the person doesn't want your forgiveness and is not asking for it, that I realized how much it was eating me up inside, and how much things like that eat us up. So I had to make some peace with the relationship, make some peace with what he did, and, build a story that at least invited a little more love, forgiveness, compassion into my life so that I could move on. Yeah.
My gosh. So, two questions. If he had admitted to doing what he was doing in an alternate reality with you and explained the pressure he was under, and said, "I'm sorry," what would that have been like? We were just talking about vulnerability a minute ago, and that would have been extremely vulnerable for him. But like in this alternate reality, what would that have done?
I really think I would have showed up for him and been able to navigate the difficulties with my family in a way that would have changed the outcome completely. I think I would have at least had some understanding. I would have felt a bit of compassion for him, or seen that he was struggling and maybe he did the best he could at the moment, but without getting any kind of explanation or him showing up and showing some humanity in the whole thing. It was really hard to make sense of it.
I can't help but think of him too alone. Had he taken what I can't imagine for him to be a painful pill to swallow, to talk to you about this and to ask for forgiveness, But had he done that, had he gotten over that hurdle, he would have had family surrounding him through this. But I don't know, I don't want to call it something it's not, but maybe because of the shame or whatever he was feeling, his natural introvertedness, he didn't allow people to help him. He chose to be alone when he could have been surrounded in the hardest time, maybe, of his life. And that is so, pity is the one word that comes to mind. I pity him alone.
I think that the pride that he carried was so strong that he wouldn't allow himself to be vulnerable in that way or appear weak. That could be one explanation, and I don't know. Another explanation could be something that I learned later on in my studies of psychotherapy, but really that he was traumatized, that he was in a state of trauma and shock, and maybe he was frozen and couldn't express emotion. And I'd like to believe that because his lack of emotion was startling for me. And when you're young and you don't understand the way that the brain or the body responds to trauma, it just seems like he doesn't care. But maybe he did care. And maybe he was, in a state of kind of fight, flight, or freeze, that type of thing. So that's another explanation.
Everyone, hey, if you haven't already gone over to my Substack and signed up for a free or premium membership, why don't you go do that right now? There's so much stuff. Every Monday morning, you get the newest, latest episode, either a long form or a monologue on a big topic by me. Every Wednesday, you get the self-reflection guide, all my notes, all my memos, and so much more. And by signing up, you will get my free book emailed to you in PDF form right now. Thank you so much.
And based on some actions that he did, which are revealed in the book later on, um,
Let's not give them away though, because we need
I don't
people to
wanna
get
give
this
it
book.
away. But I think the extent to which he was ashamed and didn't want us to take on his sins or his wrongdoings. In a way, he wanted to keep us separate from it. Maybe that's the only way he knew how to show his love. So there's
Mm,
so many people are complicated. There's so many ways to see
ain't
it,
that
and
the truth?
I'm older now. I understand that better now. I've been through a lot, and I've been through a lot of therapy, and I've lived life more, but at the time it was just didn't I didn't quite have the tools to make sense of it.
That is, I just want to pull that out. I've got a couple more kind of fire questions for you or lightning questions, but on this topic. But that is a good thing. When people frustrate us and confuse us and are truly inexplicable, it's just good. In my mind, I'm like, okay, Rachel, I'm so happy you said that. They're going through something internally as well. And they're trying, most of us are trying for the best at all times. And that may have been the way he knew how to do the best thing that he was trying to do, which was protect his family and love his family. And the way for him to do that was to keep you at a distance. And maybe that was the right or the wrong way to do it. But intention does matter with action. And that's just a great reminder for me when people do question mark things. It's like chances are they're trying to do the best possible thing. And this is how they know how, with all of their wounds, with all of their life experience, and the spaghetti complicatedness that each human being is on their own. Wow, I'm so happy you said that. Thank you. So you're married at this point in your early 20s. What was life like after this for your family? I'm thinking specifically about your mom and your younger siblings that may have still been at home. Was that, well, it was certainly a challenge. Did your mom remarry? What was the home like after?
I was already married and out of the house, so I
Yeah.
wasn't living at home. So I continued on with my life, my college career, my marriage, which fell apart later on, but had started to unravel at that point. Just because I was so troubled and didn't have anywhere to put my feelings, my confusing feelings, so they just were
Yeah.
stuck further inside. For my mom, it was very challenging. She was alone with 2 younger siblings in the house, had to find a way to make ends meet, had to go back to school, get a job. Our reputation was ruined, and that was sort of everything, but we just kept going. I mean, kids went back to school and life kept on, and time does, have a way of reducing the severity of things, but I don't think we ever got over it fully.
I mean, you'll carry that till the day you die. So I want to pivot now into your yoga journey because you mentioned your divorce, your marriage falling apart, which you can't help but wonder how much it's connected. If things had gone differently with your dad, how would things have gone differently there? And it just points to it's so self evident, but I'm just going to say it forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't just about the other person, it's also about us. And it may be the most powerful force in the material world is forgiveness. And if anyone's listening and someone pops in your mind, there most of us have one person, some a few, that you need to forgive and let go. Make that your number one priority this year. Do it. It will free you. Your life will fundamentally change. It will. Okay, off of my tangent. Yoga started off as a very physical thing. When did that start for you? Take me through your evolution of yoga from physical to more spiritual, internal.
So I moved to California, got divorced, became a single parent, was trying to figure out, my way, finding friends in a very new city where I knew nobody initially. And I didn't have a religious community to be connected to. So I really was out at sea,
Yeah.
very, very vast new life. And one of the things I always connected well to movement and my body. I liked to exercise. So I went to a yoga class and really enjoyed it, started to feel that it really helped with stress. It helped me physically and emotionally, and started with a very vigorous practice. But what happens with yoga is if you stick with it and practice regularly, something changes in your life and you can't really avoid it. I tried to understand why, if I just
Yeah.
went to yoga classes a few times a week, why was I feeling more relaxed? Why were my relationships deepening? Why was I having more patience with my kids at home? All these things were changing. Even my relationship with my ex husband was getting better. So there's something more that's happening under the surface. And
Mm-hmm.
I became curious about that. And I was practicing physical therapy at the time and wanted to understand more about yoga. So I started to dive into it, started to study deeper, and found teachers who I really connected with, who I said, who people I can look at and say, I want what they have. You
Yeah.
sometimes see these people who seem peaceful. You're like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
full of chaos inside. There's all these
Yes.
thoughts and worries. Exactly. And so I would find or seek out people that seemed relaxed and seemed okay, regardless of their external circumstances, whether they were married or single or rich or poor. It didn't seem to matter. And they seemed to know something that I didn't. They had something, some quality that I wanted more of. And I guess that quality was peace or
Yeah.
inner peace. And so I started to study with some big teachers all over the world and spent many years doing that. Started to combine the yoga with physical therapy and helping people recover from pain, specifically back pain, but any kind of pain, because pain, as we know now, is not only in the body, emotions play a huge part in the pain experience.
Yeah.
And started to really grow into a yoga therapist, which is what I practice today.
A yoga therapist.
Mhm.
So if I'm your patient and I come to you, what does that look like? Day one.
Well, it always depends on the person. It always depends on what they came for. So there's no recipe. But what we do is we look at the whole person. So if someone comes for physical pain, back pain, for example, we're going to still look at the whole person. Who are you? What are you going through in life? Other things about your life. How's your sleep? How's your digestion? How are your relationships? How's your
Mm.
connection to something, greater in life? So we're looking at all aspects of people, and then we treat what they want to treat, whether it's a physical injury or stress or tension or a trauma, with tools from yoga. So the best way I can explain it is we're assessing and looking at the person on many levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and providing solutions that come from the world of yoga, which can include postures, meditation, breathing, guided imagery, philosophy. It's a new
Out.
field. It's a new field, and I'm really excited about it. If you look it up, there's a lot of research on it, and the benefits are there in terms of for physical problems, diseases, and mental and emotional problems. And we're actually getting into healthcare.
Wow. So if someone listening is like, yoga's a bunch of foo-foo, this is crazy talk, what's one thing they should look up? Like one, besides for your book, what's one piece of research or evidence-based nugget they can check out to see like, wow, this actually has tangible results?
Really, you can go to PubMed if you want to do any kind of literature search and type in
Yes.
yoga and Parkinson's, yoga and back pain, yoga and depression, yoga and anxiety. And you will find lists of research articles that really we have a huge breadth of the effect of yoga on many conditions. So it did start as more of a spiritual practice, and it still is a spiritual practice, but it's not a religion. It's not a, it's not connected specifically to religion. It's important to understand that. But the reason it works is that it works on the mind just as much as it works on
Mm.
the, and anything that quiets the mind, brings more mindfulness presence into your life will affect your nervous system, which will affect your your body.
And it's all connected, which is I mean, we are mind, body, soul composites. And so that resonates with me. It is our mind, it is our soul, it is our body. And when we bring that in unison, it is spiritual, but not religious, you say. And I know many people that would take issue with the religious part of it. And I think look into it and see.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say to them that there are parts of it that come from Hinduism, and there are, different gods, but the essence of yoga is really that all people are the same, that we all come to this world perfect and whole, and we learn things as we grow up. And this is what the book is about, really, that we get messages from our surroundings, from our religion, from our parents, from any events we went through, and that shapes who we are. But at our essence, we're all whole and we're all good and we're all doing the best we can. And
Mm,
so the essence of yoga is just coming back to that, coming back to that wholeness and coming back to that possibility of being calm and peaceful, regardless of what's going on in your life now or your life story. And in that, it really doesn't separate people from one another, religions from one another. And so for me, it was very nice to connect to the yoga world because I do believe we're all equal. And I
yeah.
do believe that we are all good at our essence. And sometimes our beliefs and our, things we were taught start to cause us to have difficult feelings towards other people. And that causes, war and disagreements. It's unfortunate. And so when we come back to the teachings of yoga, that really keeps me feeling calm and peaceful and whole, that I can that I am not so different, that if I could have been born anywhere in the world and had a very different background and a very different religion and a very different upbringing. So, it gives me more perspective and it helped support me in my journey.
So for people listening with trauma, because a lot of people have trauma in their life, different levels, different degrees. But what's one daily practice they could do to notice the trauma, recognize it, but not let it numb them to the core in a negative way?
I think the most important thing is breathing, connecting to your breath. And I know we all breathe and we don't think about it, right? Anyone who's alive is breathing. And we have one part of our brain that, allows us to breathe without having to think about it. But the beautiful thing about breath is that there's another part that we can control the breath. And so the most important practice I would say is to sit and to close your eyes or keep your eyes open, whatever feels right for you, and to take a moment to literally focus on just your breath and to control it so that you extend the exhalation and make the exhalation just a little bit longer than the inhalation. And that very simple, sounds very simple. It's free. Anyone can do it. You can breathe lying down, sitting up, you know, in any position, but to take a moment to stop your thoughts and to focus only on your breath. And the minute we slow down the exhalation and lengthen the exhalation, it sends a signal to the nervous system that we're safe. And so anyone who's gone through trauma can do this simple exercise of extending the out breath or the exhalation, and they will experience more calm and more clarity so that they're not in a state of trauma or fight or flight.
So it sounds so, if you're like I was when I heard the breathing thing, and I was like, that's so lame, that's whatever. It's real. It's legitimately real. And like my little lame Apple Watch has the breathing mindfulness app on it. And that's what I use when I'm like feeling stressed out at work or overwhelmed or the world seems to be coming in. A little bit of breathing helps organize things and it gives me space in a way that nothing changed practically. But I took some breath and it allows me to operate differently, even though none of the circumstances have changed. It is truly, I love that one piece of advice, Rachel. That is power, baby. That is strong. All right. Where people now, they're dying. They've been waiting this whole time. Thanks for hanging on, everyone. This is just a roller coaster. Your story is amazing. Where can we find you online? Where can we get your book? You get the last word.
There are a couple ways to find me, but you can find me through my name, rachelkrentzman.com. I have a website that leads you right to the book and all of the platforms that we're on. Unfortunately, it's not an audiobook, but you can get it on Kindle, ebook, or you can purchase the book through rachelkrentzman.com on all platforms. I'm on Amazon. And also I have a website called happybackyoga.com. And that's where you can be directed towards my books, but also my retreats. I'm doing a retreat in Greece this summer.
You guys got to go to the website and look. I was flipping through the pictures. I'm like, how can I get on this thing?
It's paradise. It's a wonderful yoga for happy back, so for spinal health, but also we explore the emotions and how to reduce tension and stress in our lives. And those are the best ways to reach me, Happy Back Yoga or rachelkrentzman.com.
Rachel, I'm an idiot. I certainly missed something today. What do you want to share that you didn't get to share for the audience?
I guess the name of my book, which is called As Is, a memoir on
healing. My gosh, I am an idiot. This whole thing we're an hour in.
It's okay. It's all good. But the memoir is really my life's work. It's something I worked on for the last 10 years. I have published 2 other books on yoga for back pain, but this memoir is really my baby. It's my most vulnerable work, my most honest work, and something I'm the proudest of, even though I'm scared to share it with the audience because it's, like you said, very vulnerable. So that's the name of my book, and I hope you pick it up and take a look, and I would love to hear from you.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us, Fulfillment Project. We're so grateful for you. Good luck. God bless. I can't wait for everyone to check out the book and email you with their thoughts. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Rachel, beautiful. I'm going to get this knocked down. I may be able to get it out this coming Monday. I'll send everyone. Hey, if you haven't already gone over to my Substack and signed up for a free or premium membership, why don't you go do that right now? There's so much stuff. Every Monday morning, you get the newest, latest episode, either a long form or a monologue on a big topic by me. Every Wednesday, you get the self-reflection guide, all my notes, all my memos, and so much more. And by signing up, you will get my free book emailed to you in PDF form right now. Thank you so much.